Hi, everybody, and welcome to the Monday edition of Moohead Radio. I'm your host, a big and furry bovine, and joining me, we got some of the guys. We got Tony the Calf. We've got Brian, and we have the Unknown Comic. Nice to have you along. There we go. Okay.
Say we froze up.
And I'm out of here. Bye-bye.
See you Friday for the Browns pregame show.
God, he looks like an order from Five Guys.
I've heard of feed bags, but this is a little ridiculous.
I know. I want to share a screen with everybody because today I want to answer a question that is being asked because of Baker Mayfield's press conference after his performance. I failed this team, quote, Baker Mayfield. Did Baker Mayfield fail this team? This question will be answered. And I want to give it a short answer, which is yes, because we had two possessions in which the first possession, which was with lousy field position, we had 6 minutes and a touchdown would have won the game for us, and he fumbled the ball. We got the ball back in a 2-minute drill situation, good field position on the 40 after they shanked a kick out after the gift field goal that Mayfield had given them, and then proceeded to fumble the ball on a 4th and 1 on a sneak. So, of course, he failed this team. But you see, we're living in a time where people pile on. And this is what I was getting at in the post-game show yesterday, that the quarterback comes out, and you can see how hard he took this whole thing. He's a competitor, and he did not win. And he was directly attributed the loss. I'm going to share a screen with y'all now so you can see what I'm referring to. And I'm going to go, I got to figure out, again, I'm not, let's share the screen and let's go to our tabs. And here we go. And we're going to kick this up to full screen. All right. You got this on your screen okay, guys?
Yep. I see it.
All right, good. The first fumble, which we don't need, the one that set up the field goal that made it 23-16 was all on Baker Mayfield. You go back to throw, you have a pocket, you know there's a clock in your head, you're supposed to get rid of the ball if there is nothing in front of you. You cannot afford to take a sack, let alone take a sack from behind, cough up the football, and lose the football. This is a regression into the I've got to do this all by myself Baker that gets himself into trouble. This is his weakness, his Achilles heel. The first fumble I have no explanation for, except that he did not do what he has been doing. He was not definitive in the pocket. He froze, and in that moment, the game was partially lost, but not totally lost, because we had that final opportunity. The quarterback sneak was something that we had run twice previously in the game, once for 4 yards, once for 2 yards, and it came up again. My suspicion to take a second look at this play came from Joel Bitonio, who after the game stated that at the line of scrimmage, that the New York Jets lined up differently when the Browns went into what they knew was going to be a quarterback sneak. I want you to take a look at this play so that you understand that this fumble was not Baker Mayfield's fault. Okay. This is going to be hard for some of the haters to swallow, but do bear with me. All right.
With it under a yard, tried the quarterback sneak. As he spins right there, he gets hit in the back. And then Hunt in back.
Okay. So what we're going to do is go all the way back to the beginning. Here's how they're lined up. All right.
Okay.
The difference is right here. Number 93. You see where I'm circling?
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone else is up front at the line of scrimmage. This guy here.
Actually, it's only the two nose tackles that are
Right.
in the 4-point
Technically on the
span.
line. Yep.
These guys are a yard behind. These guys 2 yards behind. Okay. The quarterback sneak is either designed to go right or left. The Browns chose to go left with the ball because there are just fewer men in that direction. All right. So it's incumbent on the center and the guard and the tackle to be able to drive their men forward. All right. Now,
By the way, Kendall Lamb is not in a run blocking stance. He's in a pass blocking stance.
okay, and watch what ensues. And I'm going to move this manually so you can see very slowly. The guy 2 yards back comes up to the line. Now things are starting to get tighter. All right. Now look at Kendall Lamb.
He pushes towards the interior where Baker is.
And totally ignores number 93.
Yep.
All right. So we're going to keep going. I'm going to bring it back. Here we are.
That's bad line play. He
Now,
ends
why
up
is
blocking
he
the linebacker.
Why is he blocking somebody who is 3 yards behind where the stop would have to be made for them to get us off the field?
Right.
All right. Totally ignoring number 93. If you're Baker Mayfield and you're plowing just to get that short yardage, the last thing that you would be expecting would be to be hit from an east-west position.
Correct.
Everything would be coming directly in front of you when you're trying to move a pile. What winds up happening, as we know, is bam. All right. We're going to see this in real time so that you'll understand. So we have another view of it.
She's done a lot. 4th and 1. Peter. Here he goes.
Bam. All right. That's what causes the fumble. All right.
Correct.
Now we're going to go into what I call the 1 minute view into this video. And here we go. Watch.
Yeah. Kendall Lamb just
Bam.
right. Yep.
There he gets hit in the back. And then Hunt.
Oh, shit.
Mayfield did exactly what we thought they would.
All right. And this is totally unacceptable.
Yep.
So there isn't a player in football who would not have fumbled that ball. With that play design, the way it was designed, and the lack of a block, that is not Baker Mayfield's fault.
Right.
All right. So if we're gonna do this, I mean, and we're gonna stop the screen now, and
You would think that Stefanski would have called for maybe Hooper to motion to the line.
Or he would have moved. Mayfield could have moved Hunt over to the wing to at least slow him down.
Yeah.
Not excusing Kendall Lamb's poor play. I'm just trying to, come up with points here.
But Kendall Lamb may have done what his assignment was. We don't know.
Well, but the fact of the matter is, one way or the other, the play design, which Stefanski said, again, there are a number of plays that I wish I could have back predicated on the design. All right. They threw a wrinkle. The Browns didn't pick up the wrinkle. The guy came untouched to the line of scrimmage and blasted the ball loose. Now, here's the answer to your question. Every quarterback is going to eventually be put in a situation where they have an opportunity to win a game. Mm-hmm. How many significant games, really significant games, has Baker Mayfield played in his NFL career, guys?
I would say 2.
And what would those 2 be?
The final game of the year against the Ravens, when they had the chance to knock the Steelers or knock the Ravens out of the playoffs.
Oh yeah.
And I would say that game because that would have been their 11th win. And the Titans game earlier.
Titans game,
this
yep.
year.
That was significant.
All right. So what I would say is the last year's game was a garbage game. It may have been important from a retributional perspective, but in the truest sense of the word, of a do or die must-have situation, one is the answer to the question.
Yeah.
He's played in one significant game because his team has not been significant and they've not been in a significant position. I want to remind everybody that in LeBron James' rookie year, he was being compared to Carmelo Anthony, who came out of Syracuse the same year.
Right.
Carmelo Anthony had hit a few game winners, and LeBron had not hit a single game winner, and they drew the conclusion that he could not make the big shot when it counted most. But the thing was, is that LeBron was playing for such a putrid team that realistically, there wasn't any significant games. But looking further into LeBron's career, where there were significant games, there were significant games where he didn't succeed. Did Baker Mayfield fail this team? And the answer is we wouldn't be where we are right now if he hadn't played as well as he's played. Has he played optimally and consistently? No. Has he shown the same problem that caused the first fumble? Yes. Is it something that will become habitual? That becomes the question. When we take a look at a guy like Cody Parkey, I can pretty well say that his problem's habitual. Yeah. Because you don't hit the crossbar 9 times and in every significant kick in your career wind up missing important points after and missing field goals when, and he had that big moment in the playoffs where he failed. Now he's playing with another team that is really on the precipice of the playoffs, and an important kick he just blows and again hits it off the goalpost. He's nervous Nelly. When something becomes habitual, and we see that with quarterbacks quite a bit, we see quarterbacks who just given an opportunity can't get over the hump. But the national press is jumping on shit, and I wanted to clarify something because somebody made a comment for the post-game show yesterday where I referenced the President of the United States. My feeling about society today is that it is uncivil. It has become okay to kick a horse when it's down, even if the horse is injured or if the horse is handicapped. And I don't mean in a race sense as far as the Kentucky Derby. It has become incumbent upon people to be mean, to be cruel. Social media has become nothing more than an insult target range for people to go out and just fire away. And sports talk has become make your name by blasting players who, whether it's Shaq did a fool or whatever, pissing on people if they have an embarrassing moment, or worse yet, pissing on people who do not succeed at an initial point in their career, and to try to devastate them and do personal damage. Anybody who saw Baker Mayfield at the end of the game and then after in his press conference knows that he's taking this hard on himself. He isn't just saying, I got to get better. He is really hurt by what happened.
But asking Baker, if you're going to say, if the critics are going to say Baker Mayfield failed, then you might as well say Deshaun Watson failed too, because he's fumbled. We've had 3 game-ending last-second plays where Deshaun Watson fumbled on the snap, 2 against the Colts and this last one against Bengals. So, but Deshaun Watson will never get that same criticism Baker gets because he's in Cleveland. And I think the NFL loves that storyline of same old Browns doing the Browns.
Easy target. And the reason I brought the President of the United States into the equation is that he's made it trendy to go on Facebook and rip people, and literally to come up with insulting nicknames for people who have run against him, or insulting nicknames about people who are in the
He's a counterpuncher. You insult him, You go after his family, and he comes back at you. That's the way he operates. That's the way he always operates, and that's the way 99% of New Yorkers operate.
Rob, and you can make the argument that New Yorkers in general are rude to begin with, because I've spent time there, done business there, and it's a different existence there. But what
he was born in the Bronx, and he's never left it.
But the fact is that he has utilized that technique to become more popular. And stepping on people and crushing them beneath the weight of your feet because of your power is something that the media does too.
By comparison, look at the way that George Bush just never said anything, and he's viewed as a complete goddamn wuss.
Well, look, I'm not. All I'm saying is that what we've become as a society is rude.
Yes.
And we point things out about people that are unfortunate about those people. And I knew that, and we would get it again. And so I'll just share the one thing. I
think it's fair to say Baker's going to continue to receive that criticism because of Cleveland. But if he played for Houston or Denver or something, he probably wouldn't get that same criticism.
Yeah. Well, I mean, here we go. This is what we get. From I want to get this. Brandon Marshall, a former receiver who had issues of his own, God only knows. When you need Baker Mayfield to win a game for you, he loses the game.
Yeah, excuse me. Wasn't he the one that said, "Oh, I need to seek out mental health professionals"?
Yes,
in the middle of his Bears career.
Yes, and nobody came down on him and said that he was mentally defective, which is what would happen today, by the way. It's not like people are not going to be understanding. I mean, as recently as Delonte West, when we broke the story here on Moohead Radio about the mental difficulties that he's having, I don't remember anybody in the chat room saying, "What a fucking moron, what a fucking loser," and all of this shit, "Oh, you fucking homeless," I don't remember that. But today, this is the way we are. And we're asking questions as he failed his team. He feels he failed his team. And to be sure, in his first test in a significant game, he failed. Now, I'm sure that there are lots of people who would fit that description who went on to become really good. But you get better at these situations by having more of them and playing for teams that win.
Yeah.
Now, he has another opportunity against Pittsburgh. And I'll say this, I wouldn't have wanted to be in his shoes with his first opportunity, with that raging press waiting for him, without all four of his wide receivers and his two best, most important offensive linemen, one at a guard, one at a left tackle. Without having a running game and without having receivers, without having blocking, you just saw what Kendall Lamb did. Nick Harris was no better during the course of the game, and Harris played all but 2 snaps of the game and gave up sacks and was being beaten regularly. Mayfield was sacked 4 times, was forced to throw the ball 53 times because the running game couldn't get off the ground because the offensive line, and we've seen this in Cleveland before, where we had Joe Thomas and one other good guy, but the other 2 guys were absolute schlumps. And people just went into the backfield and would wipe us out. All it takes is one guy not to do his job, let alone 2. And Nick Harris didn't pull weight. And Kendall Lamb, Stephen, Kendall Lamb. I mean, he's an inferior offensive line.
Oh, that guy gets called for holding penalties every other play. That's why we got rid of him.
Just not blocking anybody. And just
can't pass block, can't run block, can't do nothing. I wanted to tell you something very fishy about yesterday's game, about the Browns game. I'm watching the Texans highlights on ESPN because I was at work. And all of a sudden, one of the announcers says, "Hey, we just got a buzz in that the Browns upset alert that the Browns are losing to Jets." I'm like, why would they just say that? It was like they were commentating, and that we just got a buzz that the Jets are about to beat the Browns. And it was like the mid-third quarter. I'm like, what the hell? I'm like, unless they started way before us, it doesn't make any sense. And then if you look at this week's schedule, the Colts got the Jags. That should be a win. The Titans should beat us. The Ravens should beat the Bengals. And then you guys are set to play the Steelers, who I'm hearing is going to have all their starters play.
Yep.
Yeah, they have to, because if the Bills win tonight, they're both 12-3, and
Right.
the Bills owe the tiebreaker, so nobody's sitting there.
Look, I don't want it any other way. Baker Mayfield doesn't want it any other way. You got to play the real Steelers. I don't want to beat up on Mason Rudolph. I don't want to beat up on a bunch of second-string, third-string people.
The storyline set up for the Browns to fail. I mean, I know the Browns have to ultimately win this game, but it seems like the flags are there. All the other teams are given like easy opponents to beat, but the Browns have the toughest opponent out of all those 4 teams I told you.
Yeah, and again, Mark Banfield, you've got it right. The hardest part of this is mentally when you have a game plan that's already been planned, and then all of a sudden, man, just the day before, I mean, everything has changed, and the next thing you know, you're on the plane, and you're not going to be playing with your 4 wide receivers, and you have no time to prepare, and there is no opportunity to postpone the game according to the league. That puts you at a severe disadvantage. I would not want to be judged under those set of circumstances. No matter how good or bad I am, that's about as bad as things can get. So again, there are going to be people who are concerned, and obviously Bob here is concerned. It would be hard on you, Bob. Well, I mean,
Bob can go aboard himself.
That's Ravens Red Zone, guys. I don't know if you ever watched their channel, but that's Ravens Red Zone.
Okay.
Oh, that's even more reason for him to go fucking abort himself. Living in a shitbag city.
Ravens brothers that make
You
videos.
fucking cocksucking piece of crap.
Well, again, one good season is better than we've had, Bob, and you build on something. And let's not forget, your quarterback has not won a single postseason game. Not one. For your great franchise, not one. It's not been proven for him yet. I'm sure he will. You see, the difference between you and I is that I'm a realist, and you are just some kind of a stool-eating beagle dog. You're just some kind of a low-life anteater, who just, you soil your own pants and then you die.
Yeah, Ravens Red Zone. They troll a lot too. So
yeah, and look, I have nothing against the Ravens, and the Ravens.
I have plenty against the fucking Ravens fans, though.
Nah, I've met good Ravens fans. This guy wouldn't be one of them. But we came very close to beating you, but you came through. Your guy came in and did a good job. You earned the victory. But, the way you're talking right now, dude, you barely got by the Cleveland Browns. That it took a heroic effort by your starting quarterback to do it. He hasn't done that in the playoffs yet, but he has gotten to the playoffs. So he has that going for him. He also has a much better team and has, from the time he came into the league, a much better ensemble around him than Baker Mayfield has. Baker Mayfield's had a revolving door of coaches and coordinators and players coming and going.
Yeah, let's trade defenses and see how good the fucking Ravens record is.
Yeah, I mean, again, we saw what happened to Lamar Jackson when he had to throw the ball, and he really looked like a Nancy girl. I mean, he really did. He really looked effeminate. Okay, Bob? So, again, we'll see. We'll see, and I don't want him to fail. The thing is, I want my team to succeed. And you're a perfect example of the type of person I'm talking about who's toxic, because You should be happy. Your team is going to be in the playoffs, and your quarterback will have a chance once again to win a playoff game and to prove that the Kansas City Chiefs are not his kryptonite. You have this opportunity. You should be happy. But instead, you're on a Browns program trying to spread anger and trying to upset people. And that tells me that you're a poor quality human being.
And I'm kind of like Bruce Banner. I'm just always angry.
Yeah, well,
they've come to the right fucking guy.
Well, you know,
their channel's called Ravens Red Zone. If you guys ever want to check them out, two brothers that are on there.
You know, and Rick
let me guess what their fucking OnlyFans is all about.
Yeah. Now, Rick Ray is saying, if all the receivers and the others are able to return and play next week, are they going to be gasping for air like Myles Garrett is now? Well, first of all, the receivers have to test positive for them not to play. All right. Now,
negative.
The fact that they're considered high risk, I mean, that is why they did not play on Sunday. If they
Tuesday and I believe Thursday, they have to clear those 2 testing days.
That's right. They could be back at practice on Thursday. And so if they didn't have the disease, no, they won't be gasping for air like Myles Garrett. And not every player who has had COVID would be gasping for air like Myles Garrett. Myles Garrett was gasping for air long before he had COVID. So there is a pre-existing condition with him, and I think that's pretty clear. One thing we don't know, because of the comments of Kevin Stefanski, is exactly how this whole thing happened. And I think I'll read this, and let's see if I can find this. Because he really refuses to address, this, how this happened. And he is saying, I'm not going to get into this, it was late in the week where you were not going to get a full speed practice regardless. Yeah, obviously any extra time and lead time would be a benefit. I want to reiterate, that's not why we lost. We've got to do better. I got out coached, and we have to play better. We had the players we needed to win that game, and we did not get it done. But when asked specifically about this, he basically said, I don't want to get into this right now. And the league is going to find, and it will come out, how these men all became positive. If it was just sharing a recovery tub, then that's a bad break. If there's something more to the story, then there may be more people involved and more people who, although the NFL was satisfied that there wouldn't be more people, that it only had these people, so to speak, in danger. If they would have felt that there were other close contacts, those people wouldn't have been able to play either.
But Mr. Moohead, it doesn't make any sense. Even if that's the case, like the Browns were forced to play, but the Ravens got rescheduled 4 times. It almost was a 5th time. So it's no questions asked for them to get their games rescheduled. Same thing for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh got the game against the Titans pushed 3 weeks ahead, and they had to swap out other games and force them to play earlier, their opponents earlier. But they get Pittsburgh and Baltimore get special treatment when it comes to the COVID situation. It obviously seems like.
Well, it's what we know. Okay, here is the question: if Browns players let their guard down, and that resulted in them being placed on the reserve COVID-19 as close contacts, quote from Stefanski, I am not going to get into specifics, but it is something that I definitely have addressed with the team and addressed with those players, and we absolutely have to learn from this. So there's something. There's something. So I wanted to clarify that there is always a next game and always a next week during the season. And if we judged all quarterbacks by 1 week performances, I mean, I'll be honest with you, Ben Roethlisberger was horrible, even in the first half of yesterday's game, as well as the entirety of the game before. I mean, quarterbacks, you're hot, you're cold. And the same thing with Lamar Jackson, hot and cold. And it's an ebb and flow of a season. That's what happens. And Baker Mayfield whiffed on his biggest opportunity to date. And I think the unfortunate part of this is that when you get to the line of scrimmage to run a simple sneak and you don't block it properly, you cannot point your finger at the one guy and say it's his fault. This is a team game. And, it happens all the time. Somebody blows an assignment, and it's like you see two defensive backs in a general area. Guy's supposed to pick up a guy in a zone and never does. Doesn't pick the guy up, and the guy just runs by him. Touchdown. And when somebody breaks cover, in a scheme, it's just like missing a block for an offensive lineman. So I will tell you, yes, he failed his team. He failed himself. He's upset. That doesn't mean it's habitual. It doesn't mean it happens every time. And look, the Steelers, everybody would say, and the Ravens are a better football team than the Cleveland Browns. They've had more years of doing things the right way as opposed to the Browns doing things the wrong way. I'm not going to point my finger at Baker Mayfield because the Ravens have all these good defensive players who are intelligently drafted, and we end up with God only knows who because we don't draft wisely. I'm not going to sit there and say that Baker Mayfield, his defense could be compared to the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. He can't afford to have a bad day. Ben Roethlisberger can have a bad half and come out and win because the defense will keep him close enough in every single game that he plays. That's not the case here. We need to build a better defense. We're not ready for prime time. We got there a little earlier than expected, and I think it's a pleasant surprise. But we got to shore up defense. We got to shore up depth on this team. It isn't a quarterback issue. It is becoming a full roster of players, and we don't have that. And that's not Stefanski's fault either. And that's not the general manager's fault either. That's previous regime who brought in the duds who have really screwed everything up over the course of the last God knows how many years for the organization. There's no guarantee we're going to be as good next year as we are this year, but there's no reason to believe that we're going to be terrible again either.
Mr. Moore, to be fair, the Browns are at a position that nobody thought they were going to be at with 10 wins, possibly 11. They possibly could have had 12 or 13, right? Nobody expected the Browns to be who they are. So I think it's unfair for Baker to receive this treatment when you see other quarterbacks that are playing way worse than this and they don't get nowhere near the same treatment. I mean, even Lamar Jackson, he gets opportunities to improve himself, even though despite the NFL or, the fans criticizing his style of play in the run game, but they still allow him to correct those errors. But with Baker, I think the hatred comes more from the fact that he's in Cleveland rather than Baker Mayfield.
And he has a ton of national commercials that he's on. He has a lot of visibility. And a lot of people feel that it's not earned. And Lamar Jackson, again, I mean, Lamar Jackson is in a unique position because he's a unique athlete and he has remarkable athletic skills. But you saw what happens when the defense had some injuries and they weren't playing well and they fell behind. He was thoroughly incapable of carrying that team on his shoulders. And I think people have to realize in the team sport, it's really difficult. The way we judge a quarterback, like I said back on Saturday's bonus show, it is one of the things I talked about as far as how to win is that 2-minute drill, which now in the NFL is a minute and a half, okay? Getting the ball down the field and scoring in 2 minutes or under to win a football game. And Baker has just not been in a situation where in a game really absolutely mattered, and let alone without wide receivers to throw to. And I can give you the snap counts, and it's really crazy. The snap counts, Jamarcus Bradley and Marvin Hall, the two unknown receivers, Bradley played 77 out of 81 snaps, while Hall played 74 out of 81. I mean, Willie's only played 3 snaps the entire game.
Mm-hmm.
And he had actually caught a pass with the Browns before. These other people, I mean, they were window dressing, man, because there was a play where Hall threw his hands up in the air and said, "Where am I supposed to be going?" I mean, it was that bad. So,
well, and Jamarcus got open, and that was a pass where Baker skipped it to him.
Marvin got open and the ball was thrown short. He didn't come back for the ball. He just stood there. And the one for Bradley on the double move was just thrown a little outside and a little bit long.
So, Mr. Muhead, if Baker Mayfield with doing the commercials and everything, if he was if he was with the Chargers or the Raiders, do you think he would receive the same criticism that he's receiving right now in Cleveland?
No, I mean, I see a lot more. I got to be honest with you. The Dolphins are relying on Ryan Fitzpatrick to bail out Tua's messes.
Yes.
I mean, this is what's happening, and you may not.
Well, and remember that Jalen Hurts, the team, was doing that at Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, it's now Carson Wentz is out, and
even Carson Wentz, he gets all these years he's played bad. I understand he's got hurt a lot, but he's gotten bailed out by the media all the time. Well, he can't stay healthy. That's why he's playing so bad. You put him under in another system. But Baker is at 10-5, and every time a turnover occurs that's on his end, he gets slammed to the wall, even at 10-5.
You just have to get used to it, and it's something that motivates. And Baker knows what he's got to do, and it's not going to be easy because there's no guarantee that we're going to have our players back. I swear to God that Wyatt Teller is going to be out there playing, whether he's limping on one leg. He is going to be out there. He is a soldier. He's a warrior. All right. I would bet money.
And Jed Wills should be back at left tackle.
I
hope that if it's not COVID that's making him sick.
He has a non-COVID illness.
If that's the case,
that's what was reported prior to the game, anyway.
Let's hope, because we need him at the left tackle. We can't survive with Kendall Lamb over there. It's just not going to work. But again, if we get our pieces back, it's still going to be challenging to beat the Steelers, because the Steelers are a more complete team. Our defense is atrocious, and the Steelers have a very strong defense. We're not quite in their league yet. We weren't at all in the Ravens league, and the second time we played them, we're in their league, but because of a weak defense, we allowed them to score 47, really 45. The last play really didn't mean anything. Let them score 45 points, and you can't win that way. And Baker was tremendous, dueling Lamar Jackson and scoring 42 against that vaunted, fatigued, and tired Ravens defense by the end of the game. So Ronnie Harrison, we hope, is coming back, but he's been hurt in every damn game virtually that he comes back into. And that could be a kind of a difficult thing. Nick Harris hurt his knee during the course of the game. So, that situation, I mean, Teller playing is so important. The team only averages 81 yards.
So that turf has gotten 2 guards in back-to-back games.
Yeah. So,
is there any way the Browns get in the playoffs, even if hypothetically they lose to Steelers? Is there any way they
No.
I mean, it's statistically possible, but not going to happen.
Yeah, they would need either the Colts or the Titans to lose.
Colts are going to beat Jaguars, so they would have to have Titans lose to us.
Yeah, I mean, it's just not going to happen. And especially after J.J. Watt's outburst for the Texans. The Texans, and I'll say this to you, Stephen, because, we all feel for any organization and fans of an organization that's heading in the wrong direction. But a player's coach like Romeo Crennel will not bring out the best in lazy athletes. And I think that's what J.J. Watt was saying, without calling out anybody by name, is that if you're not doing your reps, if you're not lifting your weights, if you're not doing the things to make yourself or the team better, then get the hell out of here.
Yeah, he did say that. I love it. I love that about J.J. Watt.
Great team leader, but it's the head coach who should be saying that. We have the same problem with Crennel here in Cleveland, is that he's a nice man, and it's not that he doesn't know football, but he just can't put his foot down on people. It's not within his – that's why he's always an interim head coach, because if somebody gets fired and he can kind of smooth things over. But once
that's why he didn't last at the University of Kansas.
It's depressing watching him do a play calling. It's depressing. He calls the same 7 plays over and over and over. He has no emotion, no fire, no resiliency or drive to get this team fired up. He just sits there on the sideline emotionless.
And this is the other thing, these conspiracy theories. The reason we didn't win the game was we fumbled twice in the final 6 minutes of the game. The Jets did everything, including kicking a kickoff out of bounds to give us good field position and make it easier for us. There was nothing that the Jets did that was outstanding in that football game. The last 3 points were a gift, and they couldn't move it beyond getting the field goal. Their field goal kicker had an extra point and a field goal block, so it wasn't like he was much better than Parkey. They didn't do anything great. It wasn't that Sam Darnold play out of his ass. He didn't turn the ball over, but the defense didn't pressure him. So the powers that be, it doesn't matter the argument of the Illuminati. It doesn't matter. You're going into a game where you have to win, and you can't be thinking about shit like that. You got to go in against the real Steelers, the real first-string Steelers at home, and take it to them. The same way you took it to the Titans, you got to take it to the Steelers. You got to come up with a game plan that takes advantage of the team you're playing. And, and if we lose, it's because we're the worst team.
Mr. Mua, does this game give you that 2002 AFC wildcard feel to it?
No, what this game gives me is, this is kind of like our first appearance really on the national stage. And we just, we flunked our first test. And now we got to go in against a team that found its ball for the second half last week. And it's going to be dangerous as hell. We're not really prepared to compete. It's not like I was talking about the Cavaliers when we got swept by the Spurs. We had no business in the playoffs that year. We really didn't. But we got there, and it was through good circumstances, great play, and coming up against a team who was just far better. And this is the way I feel. The Browns are not a complete football team. We're not ready for this yet, but we're being exposed to it, which is a wonderful thing, having players playing in meaningful games. Joe Thomas never played in a meaningful game in his damn career in Cleveland. That's the bottom line. Some players never play in a Super Bowl, but can you imagine playing your whole career where you didn't play a single significant game? That's difficult. These guys are experiencing something for the first time. Let's roll with them. I mean,
hypothetically, can you see the Browns beating the Steelers twice, 2 weeks in a row? One for the get in, one to knock them out. That would be a good storyline.
I'll take the one win to get into the playoffs. To me, if somebody said get into the playoffs this year, it's the ultimate victory of getting that done and experiencing what it's like to play the very best teams when it's a must-win situation. And Ben Roethlisberger knows how to win. Tom Brady knows how to win. There are quarterbacks who know how to win in this league. There are other guys who get into the game, and when it really matters, they fall short. And we need a full team in order, and we need all of our receivers. And God only knows we need real defensive players, and we don't have that yet. And I believe what Bradley is saying here. Our coach is smart. He is humble and will correct his mistakes. He's a first-year guy too. Let's not forget, every play call hasn't been a gem, but he at least has gotten the guys ready to play. And that's an important thing. So I hope this clarifies this whole Baker Mayfield thing. And I hope that if a few people watch this and say, I don't want to be a prick. I don't want to, make my name on social media by ripping people who are less fortunate than I am, or to, ridicule people because they don't have as much money as I have, or that, to rip people who are born with birth defects or whatever the case may be. I just want people to understand that you can be upset about a loss, you can be happy about a victory, but you don't smear shit on the loser. You go on, you move on, you play your next game and have a little class and dignity about you. That's, and I know that doesn't exist in politics, period. But in my world, it's the way that I run my business, and it's the way I still run this podcast, is that you don't come in and dance on someone's grave. Now, if we beat the Steelers, and we've played and beaten the Steelers, where I've had Steeler fans show up here, and I actually invited some of them where we talked about the game afterwards. I don't really have a problem, but when people come in here and talk trash, then it's really, stupid.
Hey, so Mr. Nguyen, what do you think of Haskins being released?
Deservedly so. I mean, you cannot end up in a situation where, first of all, you're not prepared and you're throwing balls into traffic and you're turning the ball over like there's no tomorrow. You're a first-round draft pick, and then you proceed in a COVID environment to go to a strip club. There's a disconnect, and he's just not getting it. And I think that the fact that they've parted with him this quickly, it's like Deshaun Kaiser. You just take a look at it and you say, this is not the package and the stuff of which a real starting quarterback in the NFL is made. It's the same thing with Johnny Manziel. You got a good look at it, and it was like that little mouse couldn't do shit, and his attitude sucked. And, that's basically Haskins saying, it is as it is. And that's the comment that he makes. And he goes, it'll make me a better human being and blah, 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 blah. A 23-year-old guy who's, has an opportunity of a lifetime. I keep going back to J.J. Watt. We play a game. How much better can our lives be? We're paid handsomely, and we're paid to play a game. And it's like, if you're Dwayne Haskins, you're a first-round pick, and you're going to make all this money. I mean, you owe it to yourself and to your team to take it more seriously. And if you don't, you're not going to have that job. No different than any other job. If you just basically ducked out on your employer during a health crisis and did something selfish like that, you're not going to keep a job as a health professional. You're not going to keep a job as anything. So it's no different than any other job in that regard. So I think he deserved it. And it's a wake-up call, and it's maybe something he's never going to wake up from. Some guys end up down the road like Jim Plunkett after being failures coming out of Stanford, coming back and older, wiser, and getting it done in the end. Other players are just lost, never seen or heard.
He had the Oakland Raiders were a fucking stacked team when he went there. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Well, but the fact of the matter is he still won the game. And, I don't, again, there is a lot of examples of guys who, as they get older, they mature and they start figuring it out. I think what you saw with Fitzpatrick coming in and doing what he did, that's the steady hand of a veteran professional. He's not going to win a week in, week out for you. But it tells me that people in the organization know, and personally, I think Tua has a weak arm. I think, over the middle is one thing, but he can't, when you see Baker running and throwing across his body and it's still a bullet, and you watch Tua do the same thing and it bounces into the receivers, I don't think that guy's that good. And since he's been hurt, he's not nearly as elusive as guys, like, well, no one's like Lamar Jackson, but I mean, he's not really all, I'm standing there watching him take sacks.
I think athletically, you could say Herbert's probably the next closest one.
Yeah, I mean, to me, Tua is not really. I think it's much ado about nothing. To be very honest with you, I don't see him as the next great quarterback. I see them as
Alabama's defense was basically a semi-pro defense.
That's right.
Playing against kids. So
every time the going gets rough, they sit him down and they bring Fitzpatrick in. I don't know how somebody's going to learn from that. Baker doesn't have that. Baker's got to go through this and find his way. And that's part of developing the thick hide and the mental toughness to become a winner in this league.
And I think that's what's going to help Baker in the long run versus the other quarterbacks.
Now, I want to switch off.
Yeah, speaking of winning, how about those Cabs?
Right, and that's exactly right, Tony. I want to
3-0, man. They're looking
give
good.
credit to where credit's due. Now, I will say this, and I don't mean to be, a
negative Nelly.
Yeah, no, it's not even that, a party pooper. The beginning of the year, there's been less recovery time for these athletes because of the COVID thing and the early start to the season and the late end to the last season, and now they're starting up again. A lot of these veterans are sore, they're not worked up into shape, and young guys like Darius Garland and the whole crew, Colin Sexton and Okoro, when he's playing, he's got a bum ankle right now, but up and down the floor, guys like Dotson, they just flat out beat the 76ers up and down the floor. 76ers looked like they were playing in slow-mo. They didn't have Joel Hans Embiid, but we didn't really have Kevin Love either, who also can't run up and down the floor. So, the early going, nothing beats being young and fast in a situation like this. But when the vets get their act together, it's going to be harder for the young Cavaliers to be able to continue winning in the league. We even saw the New Jersey Nets, when they were horrible, get off to a really amazingly good start in the first 10 games of the year, and then everything just went south. What I'll say about the Cavaliers is this. Colin Sexton can put the ball in the basket. He's got a nice three-point shot. He's got a nice pull-up at the free throw line. He can get to the hole. He's very quick. But what's making it better now is that he's not even pretending to be a point guard. He's a scoring guard. We are undersized at that position, but Darius Garland has become a much better player from last year to this year than any of them. This guy is a vast improvement over his last year's self. Comes in better condition without the baby fat. But more than that, I mean, he had 12 assists against the 76ers and scored 22 points. That's getting the job done. And his shot is better than advertised, and he goes to the hole, and his floater is a thing to behold. And again, we're undersized at the position, but that's how the thing starts out. Playing Jetty Osman off the bench makes all the sense in the world. I don't want to see him in the starting lineup, but he can, in short spurts, not go spazoid and hit some threes. That's important. And you know what the other thing is that we've been missing? And I'm not going to tell you that Andre Drummond is the all-time best player that I've seen, because he's not. But we have two guys who are 7 foot plus. And this is not something since the Zydrunas Ilgauskas, who will never be mistaken as a shot alterer. We have two guys now who can alter shots. If you go into the lane, you're going to get the ball launched back at you. Drummond can block shots and rebound. Even JaVale McGee can change a shot because of his height. And it's not so easy. And you've seen teams struggling when they beat these guards or back them down. You're seeing guys like Drummond altering shots when they get into the paint. Something we haven't had the luxury of. So at least we have some balance that way. Dean Wade can shoot a set shot from behind the 3 line, and that can help off the bench. overall, I'm really very happy with what I'm seeing. They're playing good defense. Their feet are moving. Their hands are moving. Their attitude is good now. They're going to hit a point where they realize,
I think you guys should beat the Knicks. That'll put y'all 4-0. But then your next 3 games are against the top Eastern Conference teams: Orlando, Hawks, and Pacers.
Very young. We're very young, and we don't have any real superstar-like players, and we're not going to get a lot of calls, yada, yada, yada. But yeah, I'm thrilled with the beginning, and it's entertaining and fun to watch. I'm getting used to who the players are, what they do. Watching JaVale McGee go from end to end and slam dunk the ball, dribbling all by himself, and no one else touched the ball but him. I was about ready to shit myself. JaVale McGee's been in the league for 13 years, folks. And, you can say what you want about him because God only knows he's had a checkered career, but he's still in the league after 13 years.
I like JaVale McGee.
And JaVale McGee is a reasonable backup center. When you look at who else is backing up, you take a look at, like the Hornets and Cody Zeller was their starter. He's out 4 to 6 weeks now. But, my goodness. That's not a great starting center, let alone a backup. You got Biyombo backing him up, and Bismack Biyombo, he can't shoot a free throw and is not always in the right position to do what he's supposed to do, and can't pass the ball, can't dribble the ball. And you take a look at what was happening with the 76ers, and I don't even know who number 11 was, their backup center, but not real good. And Ben Simmons can't help anybody in a situation like that because he can't shoot the ball from outside of, what they said. I couldn't believe on the broadcast. They charted his shots, and in his career, he's made like 365 or 368 shots, and only 6 of them were from outside beyond 10 feet.
Wow.
Yeah.
You just, that's not a complete basketball player. So
yeah, he hit his first 3 for last year for the first time or something like that, they said.
Yeah. And when he's out on the floor and there's no Embiid to feed and there's, and it's a different group of players, it's like they just got run off the floor. And honestly, there are a lot of guys on that team that didn't look all that good to me. And the Sixers, I don't know, their entire, what did they call it? The process has kind of derailed.
Who else at the bottom? Westbrook and the Wizards, 0-3.
Yeah, and what's funny is you mentioned the Wizards and the former Wall Beal thing in
Westbrook.
Wall and Beal never got along. Beal was the scorer, wanted to have the ball in his hands. Wall was a guy who couldn't shoot worth a lick and wanted to score the ball. And there was always a problem there. And this was the problem with Colin Sexton. Colin Sexton comes into the league wanting to score the ball himself. I can't tell you how many times on 2-on-1s on fast breaks, he just keeps the ball instead of passing. He's got to learn how to dish, And Darius Garland is willing to dish the ball, all right? So Colin Sexton now at least has a role. But Wall would never give up his role for Beal, and it was a constant source of frustration. Loads of talent on the team, but no chemistry. And, you're going to see, where guys like Harden and Westbrook go, this is a problem everywhere they are. They're great with the ball in their hands, but who do they really make better around them? So I'm thrilled. 3-0 is fantastic, and we're playing the Knicks next. Is it in Madison Square?
Yeah, Madison.
Yes.
Then after that, y'all got the Pacers in Indiana.
Okay, and when is the Knicks game?
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night?
Yeah.
Then y'all I'm watching all the game. Yeah, it's exciting to watch. It's nice to have that back. And
y'all got Pacers, Magic, and then Hawks, and they're all in the top 4 with y'all.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, we were 5-6 with Bickerstaff at the end of last year, and I'm curious to see what JB can do with the team. And he's got them believing in whatever it is they're doing. Because I'll say this: the ball's moving and it's touching a lot of hands. We're not seeing that dribble, dribble that clock down, the 24-second clock, and then hoist up some prayer. We're seeing the ball move around, and even guys, like Larry Nance Jr. hitting threes because they're open. Uncontested threes from the corner by Jetty Osman because the ball's moving. And having that guy in the middle, I just want to see Drummond pass out of the perpetual double he's in. Instead of bullying to the basket, he's a poor free throw shooter. He's got to learn when to kick that ball out to his shooters to give them open looks. But things will come over time. So, yes, the Browns signed an offensive lineman and a wide receiver. The wide receiver is a young man that Stefanski's had experience with as a roster player during his time in the Vikings. But he's only caught 2 passes in his professional career. The offensive lineman, who did they sign as an offensive lineman? I'm not sure the name.
I know Hollins he can get open from the 2 passes. He's been targeted a few more times. He can get open. He was just a classic case of we ain't got enough room for him here.
Numbers game. It comes down to a numbers game. But I don't know who the offensive lineman was.
Browns sign.
Hey, Mr. Moohead, I didn't mean to take you back on the NBA track, but where do you end up seeing the Nets fall in this? I mean, many people say that they're for sure coming out of the East. Do you see that? I mean, I know it's early in the season, KD and Kyrie. I know they just lost to the Hornets, but do you see them coming out of the East still? What do you see out of that?
What I see out of that is Kyrie hasn't been able to be healthy for very long stretches of time. And if something happens to Durant, God forbid, we know that Kyrie checks out and can't carry weight on his shoulders. So, as those 2 men go, so go the franchise. And, I wouldn't bet, a guy with Pelican legs like Durant, as far into his career as he is and having started to develop leg problems, that is of concern. And Kyrie has had nothing but problems. Yeah. So there's that. So I'm not seeing who the offensive lineman was we signed.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything.
Yeah. So I knew about the wide receiver, though. All right, everybody. This is we're going to be back again on Friday, and we're going to be talking about the Steelers and what we have to do to win that game. Just hang with your team, hang with them through this. You'll be rewarded. It's important to you. It's important. Good recreation, fun to watch. We want our team to win. But don't hound them. Don't start pissing on them. If they have winning records and they're contending for the playoffs this year and don't get in, don't shit on them. Let's coddle these guys to the point where, hey, if we can get better defensive players, then it won't come down every single time to whether Baker makes the play. You're only going to be called upon to do that a couple of times in a season, but if you can't do it every week when your defense is giving up 30, points or more in a game, doesn't work.
Your first year head coach, 10-5. I mean, you guys. I mean, there's a lot of silver lining at the end of the tunnel there.
I think so too. Thanks everybody for listening to my point of view, and I'll see you again on Friday with the Friday edition of Moohead Radio. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Stephen and Brian. You know what to do, Brian. And thanks to everybody for supporting the program. Until Friday, hasta la vista, Pastor Heads. Good night.